session that's entirely about acronyms. And be glad that we did not plan an acronym skit song rap for you today.
They wouldn't let me.
We just played one in the background.
Hello, I'm Alice. I'm the ERL at WFU. I work with KBs and ERMs. I've met Elizabeth and Nicole over here in the Florida SUS when we all work together. And we're going to be talking about TLAs and other jargon.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lightfoot, and I am an ERL, and I work in the CDRA department at FIU. And I do have to always put in a plug. That's lovely green library, palm trees. Oh, I have to like
Hi, I'm Nicola Midori. I'm an LM at SN. I help libraries to get the best ROI on their acquisitions and avoid needless ILL fees. I also help folks to navigate our growing OA content, and that is the view from my office, like right before a storm. Sorry.
And then, how did this session happen?
Let's move this.
Yeah, well, it happened, that's okay. Yeah, thank you. Nicole and Alice were actually eating Mexican food. Were you at BR now? And had a discussion about all the crazy acronyms that libraries use, and then maybe publishers and vendors do too. So we thought, why not talk about it? Our main question was actually, do acronyms, initialisms, and jargon help or hurt our communication? And so while we don't really have an answer, we wanted to at least engage the idea and kind of have a little fun, clearly, and think about how we communicate with our colleagues, whether they're librarians or vendors.
So this is just an example of an acronym that once derailed my colleagues and I for 24 hours and 58 minutes.
Hi B, hi Kate. Please see requested pricing below. This is for CRY 2019. Please let me know if this is incorrect and I will be happy to provide you corrected pricing. M.
What is CRY? Is CRY 2019 a commentary on the state of the world? If so, I'm in full agreement. J. Oh my, yeah. Your LOL.
Sorry, I thought we were doing it based on time. Yeah, sorry. LOL, agreed. Hopefully CRY 2020 isn't a sure thing. Conveniently, I just noticed the pricing I provided you with is actually for copyright year 2020. So if you have the correct information, already. M.
Me too. My cat could run a better world, or run the world better. V.
CRY stands for copyright year.
Unfortunately, my three-legged rescue Chaz is also a screaming tyrant. He's a really good-looking guy, right?
Sorry, we're actually looking for calendar year 2020 start pricing for Ms. J.
This was my kennel bug who is no longer with us. His sister is my present cat, who I think is trying to kill me since she leaves her toys either in front of my room or on the stairs.
So this is a silly example, but as you can imagine, if you were in consortial negotiations and a number of acronyms or jargon were misunderstood, there could be greater, more serious negative consequences.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of acronyms, very short. Are there any English majors here? I can always bet on oh, here we go, okay. So to not offend you, because I know that you know what an acronym is, I'm sure most of you know what they are, we're also going to use it broadly to include initialisms. I traced back the early acronyms to the Greeks and the Romans. They actually used them in their government and religious texts, one of the most famous acronyms being ichthys, which is a Greek acronym. And we kind of traced it back to the 1940s for the US and acronyms becoming fairly popular, especially during World War II, when the military used it as an encryption for their communication. And so when I looked at all this, I thought, oh, how funny. Who was the president during World War II? Right, very good. And he created the alphabet agency. Can anyone name them? Right. Right, and some are still with us, right? Like the SEC, the FDIC, and I'm thinking this man really loved an acronym, right? And he is one of two presidents, Elizabeth pointed out the second one, JFK, who goes by an acronym, or initialism. So why do we have so many freaking acronyms? For those of you who know me, you're like, that's classic Alice. But I actually did not think of this. This is the title of an article from the Chronicle of July this year, talking about how universities kind of overwhelm their students by using so many acronyms, especially first-generation college students and international students, where they get in and they do not know what is being communicated to them. And being librarians, I'm sure that we've all experienced maybe overwhelmingly like a wave of acronyms, right? Like we walk in the door and it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you just kind of nod and like, great, thanks, THX. And also science, right? They're another one that are it's just littered with acronyms when you read their literature. And then we talked about the law, tons of acronyms. So what are places doing to combat this confusion? Well, as librarians, or I think most of us are librarians here, we know that websites often have glossaries, or library websites often have glossaries with acronyms to try to help us decipher. The University of Michigan actually has a database where you can type in an acronym and it will decipher the acronym for the user. Completely helpful. In the Chronicle article that I mentioned earlier, what that college is doing is they're sending a glossary to first-year students to help them understand the language. So if you're like me, you think, what does Elon Musk think? And Elizabeth and Nicole said, we never think that. It's like, oh, it's just me. No, there is no answer. I wish I had a why, I don't. So as I was looking up, trying to find things about maybe, obviously anecdotally about how people felt about acronyms, in 2010 I found this thing about Elon Musk. He sent an email to his company, thank you, to SpaceX, and he basically said, stop using acronyms. The subject of this email is called Acronyms Seriously Suck. He said that it did not create a welcoming environment, that it was intimidating to people, and that he pretty much forbade everyone or anyone from adding any more acronyms to the glossary. He reiterated this to Tesla in 2018, where he said you should not need a glossary to function at Tesla. And so, of course, people being people, looked at the subject of the email, acronyms seriously suck, and they started calling it the ass rule. So what does the research say? There is no research. We looked, we tried to find something. We could not. What we did find was that the only time the acronyms have actually been proven to be useful is when they're used as a mnemonic device. So if you're preparing for a test or trying to remember a process, that's actually when it's helpful. But there's absolutely no research saying that it helps with communication at work or workflows, or that it helps you get your work done faster, or that, in emails that it helps in any way. So, what do we know about the use of acronyms in the workplace? Well, again, there is not a lot of research on this, but what I did find is that if you look through journals, especially health sciences journals like nursing and medicine, there is no shortage of letters to the editors from people who have been in the profession for a really long time saying, please stop letting authors use acronyms in the articles. I cannot understand what they're saying, and I've been in this profession for a really long time. So I don't know that that is actually stopped, but there are tons of letters. And what we also know is that I think in conversation that I've had with people, especially new people and young people entering the field or into a new organization, they often feel isolated, which I think exacerbates imposter syndrome. And really, looking back that when acronyms started in 1940 and as a form of encryption, and looking now in the present, have we really come that far? I'm not sure. I still feel like it's an encryption method to keep people out and to make people prove who they are, and spitting out acronyms and testing them like, well, okay, since you know what that means, you can be part of the group.
Now it's time for a brief game show. I don't know, maybe no one else is as big of a 30 Rock fan as I am, but they had this show called Homonym, and it was always the other one. You could never guess which one it was. All right. ETD.
Electronic theses and dissertations.
Estimated time of departure? Yes.
Ferber.
And I have this one memorized. Functional requirements for bibliographic records.
I don't know what this stands for except making your baby get on a good sleep schedule.
Right, Ferberizing your baby.
RDA.
Resource and description access.
Recommended dietary allowance.
And finally, not really an acronym, but we loved it, Raspberry Pi.
Computership.
One of these things is clearly better than the other.
So I am supposed to be here with a fix, but spoiler alert, there is no fix. We kind of talked about that in the beginning. Sort of like an awareness session. Ever since we started planning this, I really found myself using a lot of acronyms, and it's a concerted effort to try to think of who I'm communicating with and use the full words, if that makes sense. So I actually really struggled with this when we were having our preparation meetings, and I just kept telling Alice and Nicole up until maybe like even this Tuesday that I was just going to have a big slide that said, don't do it. But there's no obvious one-size-fits-all fix for this. So the suggestions that we have are, sort of obvious, but you can think of them more as like to help along your path to be clear in your communication and to also maybe help stop alienating the people that you're working with. Because it can sometimes happen, intentional or not. All right, so clarity. Just be clear in what you're saying. Choose the short common word instead of jargon or some librarianese or vendorese. Consider the impact that acronyms have on the readability of emails you're sending and things like that. We all send, what, like 1,000 emails a day and have to read through it. It's kind of nice when you know what it's saying and you don't have to stop to look up, that acronym that somebody sent you from another department and you don't really know what they're talking about. And another thing, and Alice kind of touched on this, is that acronyms in science, I found some examples that I had not thought about. Acronyms do not translate. So they don't translate well to foreign languages. So I found a lot of examples where it was a letter to the editor, and there was a BMJ article about this actually. They did a full research study on these acronyms, but somebody spent, I don't know how much time trying to figure out the acronym Zahara in a medical journal and why the trial was called that. And it was just because it was Dutch for, I think it was like heart and cardiology and pregnant women or something like that. But the Dutch words didn't translate. All right, inclusivity is a good fix. Just always keeping an eye on your audience and making sure that you're including them and that they feel included in what you're talking about. If you work with people who are outside of your area of specialization, so I'm an e-resources librarian, and when I talk to my reference folks about KBs, or sometimes even the word knowledge base, that's not a common ground for us usually. So trying to keep things like that in mind. If you work with people who are new to the work, your organization, profession, this industry, just think about maybe cutting them a little bit of a break when you communicate with them, and be really clear in when you speak with them and when you email them so that they feel like they can participate in the conversation. And I don't know how many times, when I was starting out as a new baby librarian, you don't really want to speak up because it's like, oh, I'm not really in the club yet. I don't know what people are talking about. I'm going to go write this down in my notebook and look it up later, maybe. Hypothetically, maybe some people do that. It happens. But it's good to remember that, like, people are still doing this. There's still new people that we're working with or that are jumping from small organizations to big organizations, or not familiar with certain consortium, or have, they haven't had the same work experience or background that you've had. Actually, in a 2017, I'm going to get this wrong because I got to scroll. In a 2017 article from the APS Observer, which is from the Association for Psychological Science, the author mentioned that acronyms can confer a kind of secret insider knowledge, and they can even increase the perceived importance of ideas And at the same time, they help keep out other ideas from entering your inner circle. Like, you're keeping out new ideas maybe by using these words that only certain people can identify with. And no, like, you're signaling to them, like, you're in, you're in. I don't know about you guys. Okay, I'm handing off, and you don't like clickers.
Oh, it's okay. They said I had to have a picture, and like one of my favorite public speakers is Ed Viesters. He did like the all the 6,000 meter summits, and then I went to Mount Everest this year. Anyway, so if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it. So I think that for public speaking, acronyms hurt. I don't think they help at all. I don't think they're ever the best choice to fill your speech with acronyms. I think before you're going to give an important speech, you need to consider who is in your audience, right? That's the first thing you do, first rule. And once you understand who's in your audience, you'll know whether they speak the same specialized language as your industry and culture, and whether or not they understand the terms used in your specific industry or company or institution. What are the odds that every single person in the audience will understand your acronyms? Are they your peers? Are they your direct reports? Or are they senior leadership at your institution? What's their professional background? Are they all librarians? Or are they business executives and attorneys? And then, are they all the same nationality, or do you have a diverse audience? So I'm sort of on a quest to clear away the acronyms. Think about, I think that acronyms cloud your speech, and they make it difficult for your audience to understand the essence of your message. And think about how many acronyms we use in libraries, let alone at your specific institution, right? So I think I clear them away. Clear away the acronyms. That's really my speech. But say I use the word development, or even further. What if I use the acronym AD? Something we use all the time. So I've said development. Do you know that I mean my colleagues who help with MARC records and special events? Or did you think of fundraising, real estate, international aid, or software? They all could be. So I think that in giving speeches, you need to use the most simple, clear language out there, and therefore get rid of those darn acronyms.
Okay, and now we really did want to hear from you, the audience. I know everyone's like, it's after lunch, it's that in the back. We started a poll. I might have waited a little bit with acronyms that I hate, but you can join it either on a website, like if you're in a mobile browser, or on your computer, and if everyone can see it, or you can join by phone. So the website it's pollev.com/my name, ELIZABETHLIG196. Or you text that same thing, ELIZABETHLIG196 to that to 22333 to join the session, and then send us all of your most hated or confusing or just terribly hilarious acronyms that you've run across in your time. And if you have any stories to share, we welcome them. This can also be a share your pain with us. I'm going to try to bring up the actual poll so we could laugh at what people are feeling pain about. I can't do it here. Shoot. I can get it. Hover over. Yeah. Oh, and I forgot forgot to say the most important part, but maybe you've already shared acronyms. It's totally anonymous. I'm not sharing the poll or keeping answers. It goes nowhere. I do believe there's sessions being recorded, but once this session's done, I'm deleting this poll, so it's a safe poll. It's not being used for anything.
And I was going to set aside this thing I originally came here for. And I decided in the end that it was worth making that little thing because I think my movement opens up the opportunity for me to do some amazing things like this. Felt like I really had a chance to hone my skills and questions, but now
I'm going to read the section just
basically still work out there. I think that
You just told me the logo. Do you have the link for it?
I feel like it Back to the Future. Okay.
There you go. Well done.
All right. Hey, really? Hated because of what it is, or because it's an acronym, or?
That's me.
Oh, that's you. Okay. Fervor, good one.
Just the acronym.
Okay, I'm going to share an acronym that actually I dislike, or that I have problems with. I don't actually have any personal feelings about it. As when we started out, I introduced myself, and I now work at Wake Forest, and it is part of ASERL, which is the association. Is the poll active? Is it working? It didn't work?
You should make it active.
I just sent something, I didn't go through it, was like,
Oh, good golly.
So the creator of it.
Yeah, the creator's right here.
I'm sorry, I made it active before I traveled to Charleston, and apparently didn't check on it right before coming to this session. Let me see if I can make it work.
Would anyone like to share the acronyms they dislike?
I did PDA because I had seen Son, and he said, and I was like, what? I'm thinking personal digital assistant, and he's not. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How could you, what? Yeah, so it's just, that's, you know, ages, that's.
He's thinking public display of
Yes,
affection.
exactly, and I'm like, your friend, what? I can't do that. I just didn't, and I wasn't into that at all, because I don't need that term. So it's age as well, generational. So I laughed when that came up.
We have a code for each library that we load books for, and the code for one library is FFS. And so I sent an email to a much younger colleague and said, this is how you load this, use FFS. And she thought, for heck's sake.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I too was trying to follow. I did not want to ask. This is the problem.
And because she thought I was saying, this is so-and-so, for F's sake.
Oh,
So,
Do you say that often?
Coming from a vendor side, we have 230 collections, and each one is known by a 4-letter acronym. So clap-V, clam-V, ladder, you know, it just gets overwhelming. So I really appreciate the specificity and spelling everything out and knowing precisely what you're talking about, because letters sound so much alike. So it's easy to get that confused.
when you talk to librarians, do you find yourself having to like slow down and say the acronyms, or do you just expect people to?
That has been a
For
journey. I definitely started full force into, everybody knows these acronyms, everybody must love our 4-letter acronyms. No, they are 4-letter words. So I have found myself slowing down, changing my approach, making sure that it's very specific, what we're talking about.
It's usually the opposite for me, so my brain has never liked acronyms. So my librarians inevitably use acronyms I don't understand. But I ask. right away.
I liked your point about it definitely ostracizes some people, and it puts you as part of a clique of, you know, the information already, and it's like you're part of a small group that doesn't want to share it. So having that doorway more open so that everyone is on the same page with learning is so beneficial.
Yeah, to that point, so this conference for me is kind of like on the periphery of like what I do for in my individual job. So especially with the keynote speakers, I noticed the keynote speakers themselves use a lot of acronyms and initials. And then when people get up to ask a question, it was about open access, and I'm trying to bring it up from the beginning, so I had to look it up. Especially with the keynote today, when the person asked the question was, can you share your average APC? And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, APC library, quick, you know? Because not everybody like people are coming to conferences with like different areas of special, like, you know, expertise, and they're not everyone's going to know everything, the lingo for everything. I certainly don't. And, you know, even if someone's like really amazing in one area and in another area, then I don't know anything about X. So my recommendation would be, especially like at a conference level, is to have the conference organizers work with keynote speakers to make sure that they don't use as few like initialisms and acronyms as possible. Because sometimes I feel like they don't consider their entire audience. They just think everybody knows everything because everyone's on this conference. The whole point is we're learning.
For sure. And I think it should be just like writing. If you're going to use one, you must use the full wording first and define it.
I feel the same way about jargon. Actually, one of the interesting things about the article from the Chronicle was the example of first-generation college students going to college and someone saying, we'll go to the bursar's office. And in what world or circle does the word bursar exist outside of academia? Right, and so like I too was a first-generation college student, and my parents, English is their second language, so guess what, they didn't know what a bursar was. And guess what, the bursar wants money. And so it was really important, but at the same time, like, you know, here I am with my family, it's like, bursar. What is a bursar? How do I get to a bursar? And what do I do once I get there? And I mean, like, how stigmatizing is that to like admit that, I mean, first of all, not only are you a first generation college student, you know, that could be like a classist issue, an elitist issue, a generational issue, you know, a racist issue. It's just, it's a lot of stuff.
The moment has passed, but the poll is active. I'm so sorry, everyone.
Again, it will look really cool.
So sorry.
So I did not have an acronym, but this semester I'm working with a group of students who are sophomores in college from Japan, who are in Milwaukee for 7 weeks. It's an immersive English, it's an immersive English program, but they're there to study American law. So I get them in week like 3, thinking at least they've had some introduction. Now the first weeks have all just been conversational English. They've only done law for 2 days, and they want to be finding like famous legal cases. Well, law, of course, every citation is an abbreviation. And even for my traditional kids in law, it's tricky. Well, imagine when you don't know that WI is Wisconsin, IL is Illinois. You know, they don't even know, you know, why would they know our internal United States system, or be able to try to figure out, you know, a Northwest Legal Digest, well, Northwest what? Or, you know, that NW would stand for Northwest and not stand for New Wisconsin, you know. And it definitely is like an additional barrier. They're already there trying to learn English and feeling a little bit shy and not sure, right? And then this is what they chose to bring them over to talk about. You can tell they're struggling. And I'm trying to like give them as many lists as I can find, but in law, I mean, there's thousands that they could be coming across, and I can't anticipate them all, right? Much less once you find your acronym, how do you actually find the legal document, which is what they need. So it's something I've been struggling with this semester, because I really feel for this group of students far more than our traditional students, and I don't feel like we're treating them well as guests in our country, I can tell you that.
Does anyone have any suggestions for this person who cares so much about pursuits?
I do have a nice lib guide that has lots of lists, but, you know. Just thought I'd share that sad story.
It's a good story. Anyone else?
So I'm a librarian with corporate background. The clocks, the locks, the OCLC, like, what? And so librarians don't know what they stand for. I'm like, it's gotta stop. You gotta spell it out and put it in parentheses. What do you want that? Well, I know now that
How do librarians or libraries react when you ask them to do that? Do they push back or do
I'm
they?
a moron. But I'm not. I have a lot of business knowledge, but I'm not a library coach. Nobody knows contracts, I can, you know.
I don't know if anyone actually knows what OCLC stands for.
I don't think they do, it's like on their website.
Oh, it was originally Ohio College.
Is it the Ohio Cooperative for Library Academy or something like that?
That's anymore.
It used to,
It's not
yeah.
even defined on their website, because when I had this question 3 years ago, I went, it's not even anywhere.
It's renamed now.
We all have our different answer for that.
Well, then they got bought by another company, so they changed it, they got bought again, and they said, we're just gonna call it OCLC, we're not gonna like make something that we didn't fit.
We did the same with NASIG, it no longer stands for anything. It used to be North American Serials Interest Group.
Oh, I was going to tell my ASRL story. I know all of them are like, is she going to finish her ASRL story? Yeah, I'm going to finish. So now I live in North Carolina, right? So the library is part of ASRL, which is the American Association for Southeastern Research Libraries. So I was not familiar with ASRL because I did not work at a library before that was part of ASRL. So I actually moved to North Carolina, and everyone kept saying this, and I kept thinking, oh, they must be saying ACRL, like this is how they pronounce it. It was a good few months before I figured out that it actually, they were two different things. But a part of it was, again, the imposter syndrome. Like I had just started, and I didn't know that I didn't know, and then I kind of thought that we were talking about something else, but I didn't want to ask, and it was really stigmatizing. And then,
After a few times, they're like,
and I mean, do I really want to like hold my glossary under my arm to every meeting? And I mean, that doesn't help me either.
but it's interesting, I'm now working on a data management group, and I had created this spreadsheet of all these acronyms as I learned them, because, and one of the librarians said that to me, I need that. I was laughing, are you kidding me? You need to know a lot more.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that, I'm not put on there.
Now, what I have seen, as we were looking through this, I was looking for acronym glossaries, right? And so a lot of the library acronym glossaries listed the acronym, and then the definition was an acronym. Oh, this is not helping me at all, and I don't even know how to explain that, but it's like you said, going to the keynote, where you're speaking to a bunch of different people, different levels, entry level, new graduates, maybe some still in school, and what are we really saying to people? It's, basically, you don't understand, and if you don't understand, you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that I didn't understand for a lot of the keynotes that we had, and then, I mean, it's embarrassing. Like, I'm like Googling stuff like crazy, and, no one seems to think anything of it, but I'm so glad you had
We do.
I'm so glad you had this session because, I was even a little embarrassed to come to this session because I'm like, am I like dumb? I mean, so I'm really glad you had it and you're like, it's really honest. So.
It's not you. It's not you.
I'm attending with a colleague who's a long-term librarian, and she was like, you're going to a what? She just laughed. I said, come on, they're everywhere. And, so I was curious to talk to them tonight.
So there is like that British Medical Journal, and I realized I used an acronym or an initialism for BMJ. I'm so sorry. That BMJ article. It used phrases, and I know they're in other places too, probably letters to the editor that Alice read, and it was, I can't say it, acronymania, because people are just using it too much, and they think we should be acronymophilic, I think, no, phobic. Yeah, something, stop using it, basically. Just be kind to each other.
Yeah, it's very non-inclusive, so exclusive, right? It's the opposite. Does anyone else have any stories that they'd like to share? Because we'll be completely supportive. We'll understand.
Well, it does make me think, you know, we have, of course, an FAQ page, FAQ.
Yeah.
On the library, you know, for the library homepage with, you know, how do you print? But we don't, I don't think, have a list of library acronyms. And even though, you know, you might say ILL, and then they'd say, oh, it's your Iliad account. Well, what the heck's an Iliad account, right? So even then, you know, we don't lock it in. But I don't think we have such a product, but we should. And then we could put it on our official page, our new freshman page, our new faculty page, our international students page. And then also you aren't sure, ask, you know, click here to ask the librarian. Because I don't think it's out there. I don't think I've seen from my campus an acronyms thing that even says like what all the buildings are. You know, you get a thing and it says it's in CRT 130, and it took me forever on my campus to figure out that it's Curtin Hall and not, I think there was like a Clinton Hall. You know, so even those kind of simple things for a campus, the librarian could do a nice help their campus, right, by putting together a local acronyms tool.
Our charming opening song was actually that. It was helping like freshmen to learn the buildings on the campus.
Okay.
So I work at the medical school district. We have a university medical school, we have a hospital, and we have research labs. And they all have acronyms. It's very confusing, and there's really no guide. Don't get me wrong, my colleagues are great, but I can't just see it on the But, you know, it's three different worlds, really, clinical, educational, and research.
So since I work, this is just a funny anecdote, since I work at a university in Miami, and I can't tell you what the acronym stands for, but some of our acronyms institutionally are pronounced the Spanish pronunciation. So instead of the real plan, we have the real plan. And I'm like, I still can't tell you what real stands for, but someone had to actually tell me to pronounce it the correct way. So not only did I not know the acronym, I was mispronouncing it.
How would you know?
I wouldn't know. Yeah, but I'm that person, I'm like, you're just going to have to tell it to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Prior to being a hospital librarian, I worked in the public library, which was on Marion Square. It's been torn down, but there's an abbreviation and acronym resource too. It's much space on the shelf. And then there's a reverse one too. Like if you want to know, okay, AHA can mean all these different things, or if you want to know what the acronym is supposed to be for the American Heart Association, you can tell you it's AHA. I don't know if we still have it. It might be online now, but I just was amazed.
Like how long? It used to be Gale, and I don't think there's been one in print for a long time that I know of. Because it was one of the last few things that I referenced us. Because it was handy.
It was fascinating. You know, the stuff. A lot of times it was for manufacturing terms we get calls. People didn't know, but they did call and ask us to do that resource.
It has a lot of journals. The reverse one, it has a lot of journals for like science and medical, you know, databases where the acronym is what they use for the citation. And so that's why we kept it on our reference desk, because people would come and say, I need this, and you'd be like, well, what is this? And you can figure out what the journal actually was based on it. But I haven't seen that on the first one.
Well, we only have about, I'm sorry, we have a minute left, so. No, the session should be longer. What are you doing? Oh, okay, good. Oh my gosh. Positive surveys on the poll, please. No.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm very much
So coming from a corporate background, we had all of that too, so it's not just education.
And they give the apprentice key, which is important.
Yeah, that is a great idea.
Well, thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much.